job search group. Right now we're in the middle of a series of discussions about interviewing. I had a lot of questions coming in about how to interview and a lot of requests to provide interview practice and coaching. So I thought I would spend some time in a few of these sessions and cover some important tips that can really help improve your overall interview performance. And that's really what it's all about. You want to do your best during an interview and sell yourself to an employer, of course. So that's what we're talking about. We're kind of breaking it down into a series of tips that are practical and relatively easy to employ. I think you'll find that the tips are helpful. If you have any other questions, though, please email me a little bit about myself. I'm an occupational consultant, and the name of my company is Professional Rehab and Occupational Services. I work with all kinds of folks from all over the world these days, which is very interesting for me to be able to work with people in India and Singapore and across the great United States into Canada and Latin America even. So it's very interesting to be able to meet so many different people and to talk about their cultures and how resumes and interviewing and business is done in those countries, because it does vary depending on your labor market, even here in the U.S. So that's definitely something to keep in mind. I have a master's degree and about 20 years of experience working to help folks get back to work. A lot of my experience has been in helping those who have had to make a career change because they've been injured or disabled in some way, still able to work, want to work, of course, and I'm able to help them figure out how best to do that, which is a challenge since the labor market is difficult, even if you don't have so many obstacles to overcome. I have a number of resources that I hope you'll take advantage of. You can find an article associated with this particular session, as well as the previous sessions on examiner.com, and you should be able to access links from my website and from my blog to that, as well as the actual presentation slides themselves, which are on slideshare.net. You can follow me on both places, actually, and I also have a newsletter on Paperly and a magazine on Flipboard that provides daily articles and support to help you in your job search, just to give you some tips and some resources, occasionally just fun little snippets to keep you going and take your mind off of how hard a job search can be. Feel free to connect with me on Twitter, LinkedIn, Facebook. I write for Career Realism, which is an awesome site for folks looking for work. I encourage you to check out that site and subscribe to that as well. They do an awesome job getting out resources and tips and tricks and just information that will really help you in your career planning, even if you're not job searching. It's just a great resource. I enjoy my affiliation with them and writing for them very much. And you know, we're on tip number 6, so we have quite a few more to go just between you and I. So you are probably getting the idea that when another professional such as myself recommends that you practice or prepare for an interview, there's really quite a lot to that. So already we've talked about practicing, which really means over preparing, taking notes and having questions ready to go on the day of the interview, wearing appropriate and comfortable clothes and kind of testing them out, visiting the location ahead of time so that you are aware of any construction or difficulty finding the appropriate actual office suite, what have you. And then really important, don't try to cram for your interview. It probably wasn't a good idea in college or high school to do that. It's certainly not in an interview. So, you know, the night before the interview, do not stay up all night reviewing your notes on how to answer difficult interview questions. It's just really not going to benefit you in the long run. So those are some of the things that we've talked about so far, and really all of those tips have had to deal with how to prepare to attend the interview before you actually get to the interview. In tip number 6, today's tip, it's really the first one that we're talking about, how to behave or what to do during the actual interview itself. And one thing that I think really takes away from an interview and your performance, or at least your impression during an interview, is something even the most practiced speaker does. I just did it. You're not meditating, you're in an interview. So what you want to do is to avoid saying or ah or these other nonsensical fillers, just to fill up the time, because you're nervous. You know, naturally you're gonna do it here and there, but certainly you don't want your entire interview to be filled with ums and ahs. It does buy you some time to get to the next comment or thought or what you're going to say, and it does fill up the space. You know, if there's a little bit of silence, it might make you nervous, but mostly it's just a habit for most of us. We just get in the habit of when we're thinking. So what you want to do is to start now trying to break yourself of that habit. Again, don't beat yourself up too bad if you do slip and fill in here and there with ums or ahs or whatever your speech pattern is, but do start to be mindful for it of it and start practicing now not doing that. And an interview is important. You don't want to mess it up by coming across as being hesitant or not well spoken when in actuality you are. So how you answer the interview questions may be a little different, or it may feel a little different without having the fillers in there. Practice ahead of time and do it on a daily basis, just as part of your day. Just try to be aware of the ums and ahs, banish them from your everyday speech. Certainly when you're practicing in an interview, be aware of them. Try not to say them. Practice hearing that silence. It's a little uncomfortable. It's a little nerve-wracking because you're used to having it filled, and you really want to come across as well-spoken and able to communicate effectively. So maybe you're thinking, if you have a little bit of silence in there, they won't know you're thinking. Trust me, they will. So what you want to do when you're breaking any bad habit, and this is probably one of them for you, is to replace it with a good habit. One thing that's very easy for you to do, instead of saying and ah, just breathe in. You may get really nervous in a public speaking situation, or if you're in a different situation than you are used to, like an interview, and that, you know, probably makes you a little more nervous. If you breathe, it does a couple of things. It buys you some time to think. It sends oxygen into your body, into your brain, so that you can think. So try replacing, when you feel like you want to say with a breath. That's what you want to do, so that you can just sound as if you're polished and not nervous. You don't want to come across as nervous. A certain amount is normal, but you don't want to sound too nervous by having too many ums and ahs in there. Another thing that you might want to try to replace the ums and ahs is pressing your tongue to the roof of your mouth and just reminding yourself that you don't want to say nonsensical syllables to fill in the space. Another thing that sometimes happens when we're nervous, and it can also be more of a habit than anything, is stammering. Sometimes we stammer when we're trying to find the right words and we can't quite grasp it. I just did it a little bit there. I mean, that's normal, and a certain amount of that is fine. But again, you want to try to avoid doing that during an interview, because you're trying to present yourself in the best possible light, right? So again, you can try just breathing in, and when you feel the tendency or you start to stammer, just breathe. Get that oxygen going to the brain, Or again, you could try pressing your tongue to the roof of your mouth. Just kind of, closing your mouth and holding your tongue gently. Nothing, don't bite your tongue, for heaven's sakes. That won't help you during an interview. There's some other tips that you can use to try to remind yourself not to fill in that silence or that space. And you can play around with different things, but again, I encourage you to try it out in real life and really think about what it is you are trying to say, and to avoid saying the ums and the ahs. So when you catch yourself stuttering or filling in those silences, you can try a few different things. Like you can tap your leg, or just kind of, if you're resting your hands on your legs, just maybe give yourself a little squeeze or a little pressure on your leg to remind yourself you are not going to say or ah, and it'll become automatic really if you try to practice this in real life. You can press a nail into your palm gently. A fingernail, not a real nail naturally. That wouldn't do it all. You can casually just adjust your bracelet if you're a woman, or even if you're a man with a bracelet. You can just turn it a little on your wrist to take your attention away from the fact that you're not filling up that silence. A lot of people will, tug their earlobe a little bit to remind themselves of something. Whatever you decide to do, just practice it, and it'll just become second nature. The more you do it, the more natural it'll feel. You don't want to make it anything, obviously, that's going to be out of the ordinary or distracting to the interviewer. Just a little something to remind yourself that you don't want to fill this every moment of every silence with a syllable that doesn't make sense. You want to save your breath and your words for communicating what's important about you that's going to sell yourself to the employer, because that's what an interview really is. Now, maybe you've tried other tips or tricks to break bad habits. Maybe it was even to break yourself of saying and ahs a little bit. If you have, I'd love to hear more about what those tips were that you've used that have been successful for you, and I'd love to share them with the rest of the job seekers out there that are viewing this and that are looking for help on how to improve their interviewing skills. So just to recap, so far we have practiced tip number 1, over preparing, prepared our notes in chapter 2, or tip number 2 I should say. Tip number 3, have appropriate comfortable clothes ready to go and all tested and hopefully kind of seconded by somebody else. Interview tip number 4, visiting the location the day before. And of course, number 5, relax the day before the interview. You do not want to cram and study for those difficult interview questions. You should have everything down and ready to go at that point. This was, again, the first of several sessions that will address that nerve-wracking period that is during the actual interview. So hopefully practicing avoiding saying and ah will get you well on your way to doing a good job during that interview. But we'll talk more about some other things that you can do during the interview that can help you to put forth your best effort and to have you present well so that you can get offered that job. That's what we really want. Again, I hope that you'll take advantage of my free resources on jobsearchfortherestofus.com, my website, life-works.info. Email me anytime you think I can answer any question or help you at all. lifeworks@mail.com is the easiest one to spell. All of them that you can find do work and will get you to me, so don't worry too much. I'm on Skype, I'm on Live Person, Google Hangouts, telephone works, fax, however you can reach me. I'm happy to help if I can. If I can't, maybe I can point you in the right direction, and I'm always happy to do that as well. And we'll have some more tips coming down the pike. We meet right now on Fridays at 11. I am looking forward to taking some time off over the summer, so I may not do these sessions every single Friday, but we'll see how things go. Just check on my website for the latest information on the sessions and other programs that I offer. Again, that's life-works.info. And since we still have some time left, I did get an interesting question from one of my clients that I've been happy to help prepare for interviews. I just finished a nice cover letter for him, and he asked me what a passive job search was. I guess he'd heard it in passing or in reading an article online. And we talked about that a little bit, and I would really recommend the Daily Recruiter's article on how to conduct a passive job search. That is the name of the title. You should be able to find it without any problem online. But it's a really short article that's very informative and easy to follow, that I feel like gives you some really useful tips to how to conduct a passive job search. And that, if you aren't familiar, is where you are not actually posting your resume online. You are working, you are developing your career, but you want to be available for opportunities should any come along that are going to take you in the direction that you want to go with your career. Everyone should have career goals, and if you have them, then you're going to be better able to spot opportunities when they present themselves, and to be prepared to take advantage of those opportunities when they present themselves. The Daily Recruiter, one of the important pieces of information that is provided in that article is check with your current employer first. Have a dialogue with them and say, you're really kind of interested in taking your career in this direction, and you explore the opportunities that are there with your current employer. You'd be surprised a lot of times employers will make a way for that to happen, or maybe see how your career direction will help their business. And that happens actually more than you would think. Of course, you have to make that decision on a case-by-case basis, and with the knowledge of your current employer and the situation there. Always keep up and abreast of what's going on with your company, and think about how the company's direction may impact you. And I think I've said it in some other sessions, but I think it bears repeating. I can't tell you how often people come to me needing a resume right away because they just got laid off, and almost always they tell me they never saw it coming. Perhaps if they looked, they might have, maybe not, but in any event, it probably would have been much easier for them if they had had a resume ready to go, already had an idea of options available to them, directions that they could go into, competing companies that they could explore opportunities with, should something happen. And it's always something that it is very important for you to be aware of and to be thinking about, especially in today's economy. Employers just are not keeping employees on board for 20 or 30 years like they used to do. Nobody's giving out gold watches these days, very few employers at any rate, and I would hate to see you waiting for one and only to be let go 8 years into what you envision to be a full, long 20 or 30-year relationship. So please have your resume ready. Be aware of what it takes to find a job. Even if you're not actively looking for one, be thinking about it and be prepared for it. And you never know. A better opportunity could come along while you're looking around. So don't put all your eggs in one basket. Put yourself out there. It's hard, especially if you're working. You want to be careful. I understand that. But definitely be ready for anything these days. Nobody's going to manage your career but you. So if I can help you do it, please let me know. You can call me anytime, 410-444-1989, or again, email me at lifeworks@mail.com, not Gmail, at mail, mail.com, or you can find me on my website, life-works.info. I hope you've enjoyed this session and the other sessions that I've offered, and will take advantage of the free resources that I'm providing you. I really do try to be a resource for job seekers, and if you need any other information or questions answered, have any suggestions for future sessions, please let me know. I look forward to hearing from you, and most of all, I look forward to hearing that you got the job. Let me know, will you? Have a great day.